All right, y'all. I am sorry I'm late, but this heat is crazy. We are at 93 degrees, and I know for some that live out in the Southwest and the South, that's not that hot to you. But I live in Michigan, upper northern Michigan at that. This is hot for us. We're used to snow. This is a lot. So I'm under my fan. Hopefully it's not too loud for you guys and girls. I'm in a tank top, so I'm covered up a bit. But I'm going to try to get through this because I had to skip yesterday due to the freak thunderstorm we had. And I didn't want to miss today. Plus, I'm going to cover a lot more of this on Friday too because it's a lot to get through. We're going to open up today with Juneteenth, which is today. I said it on my YouTube page and I mean it. I'm happy that our elders pushed to get this as a national holiday. But I also missed the fact that this felt like a holiday for us that was kind of if you knew you knew type situation. So it is kind of melancholy and bittersweet that we have mass merchandise now with Juneteenth on it. We have people who never used to celebrate and it wishing us a happy Juneteenth. And I know why I feel a certain way about it because I know the history of Juneteenth. I know that it was a celebration after finding out almost, I believe it was 2 years after the original emancipation, the people down in Texas still believing they were enslaved, instead of being angry at finding out so late, that they celebrated. They marched in the streets cheering. They had gatherings and feasts because it was a time of joy. So Juneteenth is special to me for that reason and beyond. And while I'm glad that it is a national holiday, I'm hoping more people educate themselves on why it's so important to us. Because far too many people want to dismiss it as just a woke holiday instead of a reminder of our country's history. A reminder that there were people who were dehumanized. A reminder that instead of matching the hurt that our dehumanization gave us with anger at finding out late that we were emancipated, that we responded with grace, with joy, with celebration. That is what Juneteenth is supposed to mean. And that's what I hope a lot of you are doing today. With your family, with your loved ones, or even by yourself, just reflecting and understanding that we cannot go backwards. And we're going to talk about a lot of that this today. Because that Project 2025 shit freaked me out. But I have to say this to Trump supporters, especially. Some of you have been in my YouTube comments. I mean, you can say what you want, but you're supporting the crumb bum whether you like it or not. The fact that he went to the Bronx first off 2 weeks ago, which is a predominantly black and brown borough, most of the New York boroughs are, but especially the Bronx, and had a rally that was so lily white that he made Bernie Sanders envious. The only black and brown people there were protesters. So that was a stunt. And then he brought up two fucking criminals. Welcome to the chat, Serenity Queen 66. Thank you so much for the bits. But the fact that he only brought up two people who are being investigated for criminal acts as his black street cred, the fact that he thinks that his 91 indictments in Georgia and his conviction in New York for money crimes makes him, relatable to black people. I don't think this is the outreach you want. But even worse, a couple of days ago here in my state that I'm living in, he went to Detroit and went into a black church and filled it up with non-black people. In fact, the pastor, who should be embarrassed by this, went around the streets of Detroit trying to drum up black people to come and listen to this idiot talk. And he got laughed at. He said it in the interview. People laughed at me. People mocked me. People asked me why I was doing this. I don't have no political affiliations, this pastor said. I just wanted to open up my church to all sides and debates. And I'm just like, brother, this man calls us the blacks. This man says places like Milwaukee is a terrible area because it has black people. They say we live in war-torn cities and everything else. This man has constantly put us down, wouldn't rent to us. Need I remind you yet again of the Central Park 5, even though he's the one that bankrupt casinos and is convicted. He has a history with our people that isn't good. Yeah, you let him use your church as a stunt. It's ridiculous. And on this Juneteenth, we need to remind ourselves that this man would have us back in bondage if he could. He thinks we're lowbrow. He thinks we're savages. He thinks we belong in jail or work in his place that's free. And sorry for the leg flash, y'all, but it is fucking hot. It's 93, and I'm not going to apologize. I just want Jews to understand that for me, dealing with this and taking politics seriously, I do not understand those that still support this man. The 4 years he had to run our country in the ground was enough. COVID, taking our family and friends. All the destabilization here and abroad. And now he has this project, which let's get this up, because I know a lot of people still probably don't understand or know what Project 2025 is. I'm still reading through this booklet, this PDF, this 460 pages. It's like a fucking manifesto. And the cliff notes of it is they want to get this man or anybody right-wing back in power. They want to fire key cabinet members. They want to destabilize the education system by taking out that cabinet altogether. They want to focus on families, as they call it, which basically means women's place is in the house being broodmares. They no longer want y'all in the church. They don't want us voting. They don't want us thinking. They just want us popping out babies until we die and get replaced with younger versions of broodmares. They say focus on the family, but whose family? Because these are the same people that would break up black families by the school of prison pipeline system. They don't care about the families whose kids die to gun violence every day. But they want to focus on families. They want to make a theocratical fascist state where if you don't obey, a president who no longer is bound by the rule of law can execute you on the spot and execute anybody they deem their enemies. This is 100 right-wing groups that have come together as a focus for 2025 and beyond to tell us that if we put these fuckers in charge, that's it for democracy. Thank you, Serenity Queen. I feel like what really aggravates me about how people don't take what we see the GOP doing seriously, what they're trying to push their agendas against black, brown, Muslim, indigenous, LGBTQ plus citizens, is that there are a certain sect of people who think, well, we'll be okay under this moral fundamentalist thing. And they'll say this with all no fucking any kind of focus. But in the same breath, attack fundamentalist Muslims whose women are covered, who listen to a religious figure above anybody else, whether it's an Ayatollah or whatnot. They don't see the collective similarities to them and those who practice things like Sharia law. They think it is okay to put our country into this tight-knit box of rigid moral conservatism that has caused societal issues, mental illness issues, and a lack of progress in our society, even though we are heavily tech-based now. These people are a danger to us. They are a danger to moving forward. They're a danger to anybody who just wants to live their unapologetic, authentic life. And they literally have this project where they are telling us what they want to do to us, and people are still not taking it seriously. Now, I have some Ari Velshi here. He has a young woman that's standing in for him this time that will break down some of Project 2025's worst features. Because if you don't take it from me, you need to understand how deep this goes, because it is dangerous to not pay attention to this. So I'm going to get my headset. Like I said, it's a heat wave, y'all, so I'm trying to be as cool as possible. I am underneath the fans. We had to turn the AC off for a bit. I had it on while I was working out, but we don't want to run our bill up. So, budget is my love language. We're going to get to this MSNBC Ali Velshi thing about Project 2025. I could have picked Last Week Tonight. He did a good segment on it too. But I feel like John Oliver brings more comedic to this. When this shit is scary, anybody living in America who has two brain cells rubbed together should be worried that this shit could ever come to fruition. Especially with the amount of money and bullshit that they're putting into this. So let's get this cranked up, and I will give my commentary as I listen to this young lady. I say young lady, but she's probably my age. Talk about this.
This is not a normal election, and this is not your father's Republican Party.
Nope.
It's now Donald Trump's party. And if he's elected, the consequences will be catastrophic. Trump acolytes...
And a quick pause. It's already been catastrophic. Like I said, I've lost family and friends due to his lack of COVID rollout. We lost soldiers in Africa that we still don't even know the story behind that. Our allies in both Yemen, the people who were done dirty by that rollout in Afghanistan, which y'all tried to blame President Biden for, but it was 45 that authorized that. There's a lot of mess that his presidency the first time brought about. We cannot risk a second term because we won't get any other free and fair elections.
Have an entire plan called Project 2025.
Yeah, and right here it says, conservative groups draw up plan to dismantle the U.S. government and replace it with Trump's vision. That man ain't got a fucking vision. He is nothing but a meat puppet who goes by the money. As long as you got money, that's all he cares about.
Priorities for the first 180 days of a new Trump administration. And it's not hyperbole to say that Project 2025 would dismantle democracy as we know it.
Exactly.
Critics are calling it the fascist playbook. And it should be one of the reasons, if not the reason, that you vote this November.
Exactly.
What's at stake here is not just a Republican agenda versus a Democratic agenda, as in years past, but democracy itself. And you don't need to take anyone's word for it. You can read Project 2025 for yourself. The far right.
I won't even print it out. When I see how long that PDF file is, and I'm still reading through it because I got the 460-page version of it. I heard there's a heftier version out there, and you can see by her binders there is. I was just stunned that these people really are out there detailing how they want to literally dismantle our checks and balances, our Supreme Court system, our Congress, our education system, and other cabinet systems from the EPA and beyond. And they really think this is going to help make America great. It's fucking scary.
Its blueprint spans 2 volumes, over 800 pages, and it details comprehensively the Republican strategy to remake the executive branch, concentrating power solely in the hands of the president.
That's insane.
But as the far right...
And the thing is, we literally fought to not have something like that. We could have stayed under the crown if we wanted one monarchical ruler. We are not making a fiefdom or a kingdom, for those who don't understand what a fiefdom is. It's basically the same thing. A president should not have absolute power. It corrupts. It causes issues that we cannot afford. But some of you think you will be safe. I just don't get it.
Is well aware this project can't proceed without restructuring our government's foundations, without eliminating the legal obstacles and checks on the president. Like, for example, the Department of Justice, which is why there's a whole chapter in Project 2025 about the DOJ.
Oh, Lord.
In his most recent piece, The Nation's Elie Mystal highlights how devastating Project 2025's assault on the Department of Justice could be. Elie writes, quote, "If Project 2025 is essentially a conservative heist plot, then the chapter on the DOJ is where the plotters detail how they intend to disable the security cameras and floodlights, allowing them to operate under the cover of darkness."
And that right there should tell you that they don't plan to do this anyway on the board. These people know that legally speaking, what they want to do in order to have absolute power is against the law. So what they want to do is gut the DOJ, if not dismantle it completely. Then they have absolute free reign to do whatever the fuck they want. That should scare you.
Incapacitating the Department of Justice is exactly that, knocking out the security cameras. Trump's problem with the DOJ is not, as he claims, that it is a bloated bureaucracy, but rather that, as currently structured, it won't carry out MAGA's bidding. Ms. Stahl goes on to explain, quote, Project 2025 proposes transforming the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ into a tool to fight for white supremacy instead of against it.
And right there, and it's fucking Juneteenth, so it's already hitting me. They want to fight for white supremacy because their lack of pigment really makes them feel like they got a leg up on everybody in society. And they want to gut the DOJ so that they can push that agenda. We're all supposed to be human beings. I know they want to say, oh, this is racist, that's racist. It's actually ethnic bigotry if you want to really look at it. My people are human, whether you want to accept it or not. And to fight for white supremacy in this day and age, why? I just... All right, let's keep going.
It aims to do this by using the division to prosecute institutions and organizations that promote diversity as violating civil rights and equal protection of whites. And it's...
You realize how fucking ridiculous that is. So for those of us fighting for civil rights who literally had to come up from being literally dehumanized and still are in some ways, based on our skin color, our faith, or lack thereof, because they love going after atheists too, based on our sexual orientation or our gender identity, how dare we say that we're humans too, that our lives matter, that we want to coexist in this nation with you? To bigots like this, that's being prejudiced against white people. If you're a white person and this doesn't speak on your own thoughts, you need to stand up against this and say, stop speaking on my behalf. Because my lack of melanin does not make me automatically agree with this fuck shit. Because that's what this is. It's fuck shit. It is so illogical that these people think that asking for our lives to matter, asking for diversity to be uniform, asking for people to be able to grow and flourish as their authentic selves is a bad thing and troubles their whiteness. What the hell? Okay, let's keep going.
It's the logical conclusion of the conservative assault on affirmative action and DEI programs.
And DEI pisses me off because a lot of people have been using that terminology now for anybody of color working in a place they don't think we belong. Diversity and inclusivity is a good thing for all companies. We need more of it, not less. But your threat to the societal hierarchy is noted.
Project 2025 is telling us exactly how the conservatives plan to take away the rights of women, people of color, and the LGBTQ community.
I just said that.
I beg the American people to believe them. For more on this, I am joined...
And, oh God, here, I knew she was going to pull him up. Now, I'm going to preface this as me and Eli have gone back and forth. We used to follow each other when I was on Twitter. I had mad respect for him at first, but I'm not going to act like he's not problematic with some of his opinions. And he does not like any pushback. And we mutually blocked each other after I gave him pushback about his opinions about the Supreme Court and stacking the court and how it's not feasible and could end up hurting us in the long run. So I'm going to preface that he and I used to get along. No, we don't so much. He probably doesn't even remember me. I haven't been on Twitter in 2 years, so, it is what it is. But we used to have really good conversations until I disagreed with him. So I'm not that big of a fan, but I can agree with what he's saying about Project 2025. This is scary, y'all. Well, let's hear what he has to say. I'm going to try to keep the snark down, but it is what it is.
By Elie Mystal himself, columnist and justice correspondent for The Nation. He's also a fellow with the Type Media Center and the author of the book, Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution. Elie, we touched about this very briefly in the introduction, but can you please give us the TLDR for how Project 2025 plans to restructure and repurpose the Justice Department?
Yeah, so Project 2025 isn't a plan, it's a manifesto. It's a manifesto for how Trump's ruling junta intends to take over the legal structures of our nation. And it's really focused on the DOJ because, remember, folks, the DOJ hurt Trump, right? The DOJ stood up to Trump. And I say that having almost no respect for mustache-twirling racist Jeff Sessions. But when it came time to do the right thing, Jeff Sessions did the right thing and recused himself. I have almost no respect for Bill Grimace Barr. But when it came time to do...
Now, see, this is why I used to like Eli. I really do like the way he drops burns. Because, you know, I used to call Homeboy Grimace too, but he's not joking about how Jeff Sessions got fired for doing the right thing in the DOJ. How Barr realized that Trump was an idiot a little too late and realized that he could not overstep his bounds as the national AG when he was in charge of that. The fact that these men who are different sides of the political spectrum from us decided to do their job and got punished for it should open your eyes to why the MAGA agenda is dangerous. But some people have drinking that gray orange Kool-Aid so deeply that you can't talk them out of it. They really think they'll be okay under literal fascism, and it's sad.
The right thing after Trump lost the election, Bill Barr would not do Trump's bidding and would not file frivolous lawsuits against, the voting machines and Smartmatic and what have you, right? So Trump will not have forgotten that. And Project 2025 manifesto is his plan to remake the DOJ into an organization that will do its bidding, right? And
a literal Gestapo 2.0. And I do not say that lightly. You know, I love history. You know, I've studied a lot of World War II history, especially because my grandfather served. And it's scary how much this mirrors early 1930s and 1940s Germany. We cannot allow this to happen. It is literally in real time before us. They are not being quiet about what they want to do. And this is why we have to keep focused.
Kind of key way to do that. I mean, look, the entire section is basically like a Seinfeld episode of Festivus. Like, it's just an airing of grievances that they have against, like,
can we talk about one of those grievances? Can we talk about one of those grievances? There are many,
sure,
you're right.
Sure.
But one that I found particularly troubling is that Project 2025 proposes to redirect the Department of Justice's focus from white-collar crimes to violent crimes. And I thought this was really interesting given that many of the crimes of which Trump and, as you put it, his junta have been charged are often those white-collar crimes. So what do you make of this shift? Is this self-serving? What's the subtext here?
Right, no, they're trying to keep Trump's family out of jail with this stuff, because one of the other things that they do, not only are they saying that the DOJ should focus on violent crime, not tax fraud, bank fraud, charity fraud, all the stuff that Trump and his people are accused of, right? It also says that the DOJ needs to fire lawyers. They want the Department of Justice to fire the 300 or so lawyers that work for the FBI. Why do they do that? Well, because the lawyers who work for the FBI are the ones that tell the FBI what they can and cannot do.
Not only that, but he has a problem with lawyers right now, like Letitia James, like Fannie Willis. Women who are taking him to task and holding his ass to fire for the election fraud, for the money schemes that he pulled in New York, including the hush money. He wants to be above the law, and no citizen, whether they're the president or not, should be above the law. Point blank, period.
And Project 2025 doesn't like that. They don't want to tell the FBI what they can't do. They want the FBI to take their orders directly from a political appointee that is beholden to their attorney general. And that's the other thing that's, I think, most scary about this idea, right? Because if you look at who the Republicans are talking about for attorney general, they're talking about people like Stephen Miller. They're talking about people like Mike Davis. They're talking...
That guy that looks like a fucking bowling ball pin and just full of hatred and just self-hate and racism. Stephen Miller shouldn't even be in charge of fucking his own life. I can't imagine putting him in charge of anything in the government ever again. He's a fucking disaster.
about people who think that the wrong turn for this country happened when Lee surrendered at Appomattox, right? And they want to take us back into that antebellum way of thinking.
I
and
said that earlier.
Next time around, Trump is going to appoint as his AG a loyalist racist as opposed to just a general racist.
Well, let's talk about some prospective attorney generals. You mentioned Mike Lee and Stephen Miller, both veterans of the Trump White House. Mike Lee is now the senator from Utah. A recent Slate article suggests that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is also in the mix here. And Paxton has a really interesting record. He was indicted on security frauds charges that were later dropped when he agreed to do community service and to pay restitution. And he also
Must be nice.
Said that he would.
But a kid can be accused of taking a backpack and spend years in Rikers, then take his life after it's found out that he didn't do that crime. These motherfuckers can openly commit fraud and other crimes and get away with community service. And I know some of you that might watch this and think, well, what's the problem with that? It's not a violent crime. It's still a crime. It's annoying what you're willing to dismiss for your wannabe theocratic fascism.
Would bring legal action against emergency room physicians if they performed abortions on Texas women who were in the throes of miscarriage. So how does he figure into this?
And do they not realize the danger to women's health that is? They don't care. And like I said, I have family from Texas and stuff, some family that live there. So I know that it's not everybody in Texas that's down with this, but these are the people you have in charge of your state right now, causing more harm to mothers and unborn children by not allowing doctors to do their job. But I can't talk to brick walls. If you're so stuck in the all lives matter as long as they're fetal lives, but you don't give a fuck about anybody else, you're a hypocrite. Point blank, period.
What would the DOJ look like under his leadership?
Well, Melissa, personally, I've never been arrested or charged or convicted of a crime. But I have heard that when you are arrested, charged, and convicted of a crime, when you're a felon, you kind of like to hang out with other felons, right? You feel a little more comfortable with your own people when you are convicted to hang out with other cons. And that's Ken Paxton, right? Like, that's what Ken Paxton brings to the table, that criminality that Trump loves so much. So, yeah, he's one of the people who's
They want to be the next group of good fellas, and I'm sorry, none of y'all are charismatic. Most of you are pushing your damn near 80s. You need to stop this. This ain't the fucking movies. Y'all need to stop. Y'all want to play Criminal Empire, do that shit in New York or in Texas or whatnot? Stay the fuck out of politics with that bullshit.
Next for AG, Chris Kobach, the attorney general. Basically, if you have been a Republican lawyer who has attacked people of color, the LGBTQ community, or women trying to access reproductive rights, Trump wants you to send him a cover letter, right? Trump's going to take your call about and interview you to be the next attorney general of this nation.
Which is
Elie Mystal, so much in these 800 pages. We didn't even have a chance to talk about the Comstock Act, but thank you so much for giving us the TLDR. All every American should be looking into this. Thank you.
Biden administration is facing backlash for a new executive action on immigration that's being compared to asylum restrictions that were enacted by Donald Trump. The action gives Biden broad power to temporarily shut down the southern border.
And we're going to stop right there because I get it. MSNBC wants to try to make it seem like things are as bad with this administration as the last administration, ignoring that we just all watched and literally heard about, literal Project Fascism. But it is what it is. Give me a moment, though, y'all. I got a bot in my chat, and it is what it is. Give me a moment. I'm just not in the mood today for that. I don't need the views. I do this for fun. And you will not be in my chat, bot. So, yeah. Let's get you out of here. I'm not going to warn you. I'm just going to ban you. Don't join my chat if you're here to try to make me famous. I'm not trying to be famous. Sorry, not sorry. And I get it, Serenity Queen. There are a lot of good people that live in Texas, people I care about that live in Texas. It is not your fault these representatives do not have your best interests. But this is why we have to get on the ground running to make it better for all of us and make it easier and give people more voting access rights. Now let me see if I can shrink this down a bit before I bring this up. Because I know some people think, well, Tim, you're just talking to talk. You didn't really get that manifesto, did you? Didn't you? Did you? I tell you all the time, I'm a bitch with receipts. So let me pop this up here for those who don't believe. This is the 460-page manifesto called The Mandate for Leadership and the Conservative Promise. Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project. I don't just talk the talk. I have been going through this bullshit. Let me scroll back up to show you who is the forefront for this. It's just two names that you should keep a thing for. The foreword is by Kevin Roberts, a PhD, which I keep telling people that higher education doesn't always mean that they are very intellectually mature. Edited by Paul Dans and Stephen Groves. 100 different conservative projects have contributed to this bullshit agenda. There's the advisory board, the presidential transition projects, and note. Authors contributed a foreword, a promise to America, which I'm going to read out before we wrap this up because it's a doozy. Then taking on the reins of government. If you have time, would recommend you getting either a Cliff Notes version of this or something because it is a doozy. Well, let's scroll down. I'm not going to do the... Is that the acknowledgements? Yeah, there we go. We're gonna read this out because it's bullshit. It's real fuck shit, but I think you need to hear the mindset of this PhD who seems to think that America needs fascism to be great. This work, Mandate for Leadership 2025, The Conservative Promise, is a collective effort of hundreds of volunteers who banded together in the spirit of advancing positive change for America. White America. Our work is by no means the comprehensive compendium of conservative politics. That's a lot of word salad. Nor is our group the exclusive cadre of conservative dinkers. Oxymoron, anybody. The ideas expressed in this volume are not necessarily shared by all because they're fucking extreme. What unites us is the drive to make our country better. For who? For who? First and foremost, we thank the chapter authors and contributors who gave so freely of their time in service to the country. I'm sure they were writing manifestos anyway, buddy, or spamming Facebook with hate stuff, so they had the time. We are particularly grateful to those who have helped with the dedicated members of the Heritage Foundation, problematic, Management and Policy, Executive Vice President Derek Morgan, Chief of Staff Wesley Cooper-Smith, Associate Director of Project 2025 Spencer Crichton, I believe that's how you say his name, and Thomas A. Rowe, Institute of Economic Policy Studies. Director Paul Ray devoted a significant amount of their valuable time, not hugging an AR-15 and swearing to a flag, to review and edit this lengthy manuscript and provided expert advice and insight. The job of transforming the work of dozens of authors and hundreds of contributors into a cohesive manuscript fell upon the Heritage formidable team of editors. Oh, this is just blowing people at this point. So we have these idiots to thank. Therese Pennefeller, Senior Editor. William T. Poole. Marla Hess, Jessica Loeffner, Karina Rollins, Kathleen Scaturo. Bunch of little handmaidens, gatekeepers to the fuckery, whose tireless efforts you would not be reading those words. I'm not going to thank them for this. The talented work of data graphics manager John Fleming, manager of web development and print projects Jay Simmons, director Margaret Elizabeth Fender, Grace DeSanto, Melissa Bluey, all came together. I am so tired already. This is so fucking annoying. Okay, this is just thanking people, acknowledging them. By Paul Dans and Stephen Groves. A lot of these names you should remember because these are probably people who smile in your face while plotting for your country to be under fascism. This is a lot. Alabama Policy Institute. Alliance for Defending Freedom, American Compass, the American Conservative, America First Legal Foundation, which, if any of you are a fan of Dr. Seuss, you remember he did cartoons about America First beliefs. They're dangerous. They're as close to Nazism as you can get. America Center for Law and Justice, America Cornerstone Institute, America Council for Trustees and Alumni, a lot of American names, Legal Exchange, American Main Street, American Monument, American Principles, Center for Equal Opportunity for who? Center for Family and Human Rights for who? Center for Immigration Studies, are you kidding me? Center for Renewing America for what? You just want to dig up most of our lands and fuck up the rest of our lands. And shoot up as well. Coalition for a Prosperous America. Competitive Enterprise Institute. Conservative Party Institute, Concerned Women for America. I'm sorry if I feel like I'm repeating myself, but a lot of these names are fucking citizens. They're dissimilar. They're citizens who have nothing but time on their hands to be hateful bigots. Concerned Women for America. Concerned for who? Defense freedom, ethics and public. These are the same people that want to gut the GOJ but say ethics. Family policy, family research, First Liberty, Forged Leadership, Foundation for Defense of Democracies. No. Foundation for Government Accountability, even though they want to have absolute law for the president. Freedom Works, maybe not for those of color or LGBTQ. The Heritage Foundation, which I said highly problematic. Hillsdale College, honest elections from the people who couldn't accept the fair and free election in 2020 and rioted on January 6, 2021. Fair, free elections, y'all. You can't get more comedy. Oh my God, it's still going. Independent Women, Institute for American Worker, Institute for Energy Research, as they want to frack and drill our nation into fucking nature bankruptcy. Institute for Women's Health, half of you don't even know how the uterus works, but okay. Intercolgate Studies Institute, James Madison Institute, Keystone Policy, The Leadership, Liberty University, another shitty school, National Association of oh my gosh, National Center for Public Research, Pacific Research, Patrick Henry, a lot of old-ass colleges full of racism. Personal Policy Operations, Recovery for America Now, the 1792 Exchange. You know, the exchange before my people became humans again in this country's eyes, and before women had the right to vote. Yeah, funny about that. Susan B. Anthony's Pro-Life America. And the funny thing about Susan B. Anthony, while I do love that she was a suffragette for some people and that she understood the right to vote, she was not a hero. She was very racist. And people don't like when you say that, but it's the truth. She wanted the suffragette movement for white women only. She didn't care if black, indigenous, Asian American women, or any woman that didn't fit their little narrow focus could vote. And that's why you never see me bumping Susan B. Anthony. But the conservatives do. Texas Public Policy Foundation, Tino Network, Young Americans Foundation. A bunch of bullshit, y'all. A note on Project 2025. We want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is a conservative movement, united effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 20th, 2025. They are very lofty. And they want you. All that's missing is the Uncle Sam border pointing at you. Welcome to the mission. Ugh. By opening this book, you are now part of it. No, the fuck I'm not. I'm here to call it out and clown on it. Not a part of this. Just reading and being as snarky as I can. Indeed, one set of eyes reading this passages will be one of the 47th president of the United States. I know President Biden probably read this bullshit and was like, these fuckers. These motherfuckers right here are full of garbage. And I'm sure VP Harris, who will probably be the 47th president, our first female and woman of color president, if I have any way, is probably reading this with a side eye saying, this bullshit right here. We don't have to join your pity Republican Party to understand that reading this gives us a leg up on the stupid shit you want us to fall in line for, but we won't. I believe it was Sun Tzu that said, know thy enemy. Study thy enemy. Understand their motivations so that you do not fall for their pitfalls and traps. Yous are idiots for putting this out. History teaches that a president's power to implement agenda is at the apex during the administration's opening days. To execute a well-conceived, coordinated, unified plan and train a committed cadre of personnel to implement it. In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally begin transition planning in the late spring of the election year. That's because you need time to hire cabinet members. You need time to gauge what this nation needs, which we needed a rollout for our vaccine. We needed economic relief from the pandemic causing lockdowns. We needed an actual functioning government, which we didn't have under 45. But I digress. That is too late. Oh, yeah. For fascists, you can't implement actual structural change properly, hire cabinet members properly. We have to force ramrod our decision into the American people's lives. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at a seemingly logarithmic rate for 4 years. Conservatives have to have a fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government. The work must start now. The entirety of this effort is to support the next conservative president, not to support all presidencies, mind you. They don't give a fuck if a non-conservative president gets into power. No, because they want it where they will not have anybody to oppose their rule ever again. It is fucking dangerous. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to the president-elect Ronald Reagan, their messiah, the inaugural mandate for leadership. This collective of work by conservative thought leaders and government hands, most whom were not part of Heritage, set out policy prescriptions, agency by agency, for the upcoming president. Bunch of bullshit. This book literally put the conservative movement and Ronald Reagan on the same page, and that did well for everybody. Not trickle down anybody. The stock crash of 88, anybody? But sure, things were just peachy keen. And the revolution that followed might never have been save for this band of committed and volunteer activists. With this volume, we have gone back to the future and then some. I'm not going to read any more of this. The fact that they need to go backwards to even do anything should tell you how ridiculous this is. But this is where we're at. This is what our nation is up against. This is what we need to pay attention to and stop acting like our vote doesn't matter and stop acting like it doesn't matter who you vote for, because we could be being marched into a level of history that we should never go back to. Women, our rights will be non-existent. Our health concerns, non-listened to. People of color, we already know the struggle. Existing in our own country, trying to strive and survive. Don't put us backwards. LGBTQ+, we know. Just getting the right to marry has already been a crux in the craw of the Conservative Party. I can only imagine how much worse they will make it for you during fucking Pride Month as it is. During Juneteenth. I am literally reading out the manifesto of conservatives who want us to not only live in fear, but to not live at all unless we're under their crazy religious theocracy. I don't know if it's the heat or the fact that I'm flabbergasted that they can be this bold with this manifesto, because I'm not going to call it a conservative agenda anymore. This reads like a madman on Facebook with too much Red Bull and stroking his AR-15. This is dangerous. And we have to be the front against this fuckery, because they've got plenty of little foot soldiers for fuckery who are down for this. I want you to take every election you can seriously. your state, your local, whether it's your comptroller or your school board, the federal elections. Because if we don't, they are literally letting us know that once they get in, there will be no getting them out without violence and bloodshed. This is a dangerous time, and I will keep drumming this up. And I'm going to get through more of this because I plan for a little bit of a part 2 on Friday because I need to keep drumming home how dangerous this fucking manifesto is. But I'm going to wrap this up. It is really hot, y'all. If you are in the heat zones, especially those of us who are not used to heat anymore, who live in more northern areas that are more used to snow and stuff, please be safe. Keep hydrated. Keep your house as cool as possible. And I will see you again soon on Friday. Thank you, Serenity Queen, for sitting in with me. Thank you for all of those who will watch this on the replay, especially when I upload it to YouTube. But I'm going to get ready to go, cool down before I go make dinner for the family in a bit. Have a great day, y'all, and just please stay safe.